guys. Today, I don't really know what I'm going to talk about, so I guess I'll talk about work. Yesterday I was at work, and I was just about to finish, and one of, I don't know, I guess you can say stereotypical Australians came up to me, and he said, "So, what nash are you, mate?" I'm like, Australian, mate. He's like, "Nah, you don't sound Australian, mate." I'm like, "You have to sound Australian to be Australian? I'm pretty sure I'm about as Australian as you are, if not more." And he's like, "No, you don't sound Australian. You can't be Australian." I'm like, "Well, I'm pretty sure I'm Australian. My grandmother and her 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 grandmother." How many grandmas was that? Well, it's meant to be 8 or 9. We're all Australians, so pretty sure I'm Australian, at least in some degree. He's like, "Well, no, mate, you're not Australian. You don't sound Australian. There has to be something else in there." I'm like, wait, so my accent is determined by my genetics and my ancestors who were born years and years and years ago. Is that what you're trying to say? Yeah, you don't sound Australian. You have to have something else in there. Well, I guess I was British. My other grandmother was English. She's like, "Yeah, I knew there was a palm in ya." I'm like, but last time I checked, most white Australians did have some British in them, considering it was originally the English that decided to settle down in Australia and shit. If you wanted to say you're true blue Australian, right, like you're trying to say, why aren't you black, like an Aboriginal? Do you even have any Aboriginal? Like, oh, sure you do. And he keeps going, "Nah, you can't be Australian, mate. You don't sound Australian. You're something else. Just admit it." I'm like, pretty sure I'm Australian. Please give me a break. I don't need to hear this shit anymore. And it just went on and on until my work finished. He thought I was Welsh. He thought I was American. He thought I was Pom. That's English for you. He seemed to omit the fact that even though I was born in Australia, raised in Australia, I'm not Australian because my grandparents were something else. Even though one of my grandparents were pretty much more Australian than he was, so he can go choke on up. So, and the funny thing is, this isn't the first time this has happened to me. I've had lots of other people, even people that don't consider themselves true blue Australian, ask me, "What are you?" And when I say Australian, they won't believe me. They're always like, "Well, what are your parents then?" Australian. "Your grandparents?" "Australian." "Really? Well, one of them was pretty goddamn Australian. 9 generations. Doesn't that count to make me an Australian yet?" No, if I don't act like a bogan, I can't be Australian. That pisses me off. Ugh. So yeah, has anyone had that problem where the cultural stereotypes kind of forced on you, even by the people that you live with, like, in your same country? Leave me a comment down below, and tell me some interesting stories. Bye!